When police asked what happened to her husband, Marissa DeVault told them a story, then a different story, then another. 3 versions of the same night. 3 explanations for why Dale Harrell was found on the bedroom floor with catastrophic head injuries. Here's the question. If you're telling the truth, why does the story keep changing? And what really happened in that room on the 14th of January 2009? This is the case of Marissa DeVault, wife and mother of 3, who looked ordinary in suburban Arizona until investigators pulled a single thread and the life behind it unraveled. Over the next half hour, we'll test every version against the fixed points: blood evidence, financial records, and witness testimony. You'll see how blood evidence maps movement better than memory, how ledgers expose pressure better than excuses, and how timelines pin claims to the clock, piece by piece, until there's nowhere left to hide. Keep one question in mind as you watch. How far can a manufactured story run before science, money, and time break it? Let's find out. But before the investigation, remember the person at the center of this. Dale Harrell, not a headline, a human being, a father, a husband. Understanding who he was makes what happened even harder to hear. This is Dale's story. Dale Harold Harrell was born on December 18, 1974. By his early 30s, he'd built a solid career as an HVAC technician, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And in Phoenix, Arizona, where summer temperatures regularly hit 115 degrees, that meant steady work and good income. Solid money that could comfortably support a family of 5 in a suburban neighborhood. But more than his career, Dale was known for something else. According to everyone who knew him, he was a genuinely good person. Dale and Marissa first crossed paths as teenagers at Lake Havasu High School back in the 1990s. They weren't dating then, just acquaintances in different grades who occasionally saw each other in the hallways. After graduation, their lives took very different paths. Dale pursued technical training and started building his HVAC career. Marissa, on the other hand, became pregnant toward the end of high school and had her daughter Rhiannon when she was very young. The father wasn't in the picture. Money was tight. And to make ends meet, Marissa worked various jobs, including as an exotic dancer at a club in Phoenix, where she went by the stage name Reese Cup. This detail matters because it shows something important about Marissa's background. In their early 20s, Dale and Marissa reconnected by chance in Phoenix. They started dating, and Dale did something notable. He fully embraced Marissa's daughter, Rhiannon, stepping into a fatherly role even though he never legally adopted her. According to friends and family who testified later, Dale was patient, gentle, and devoted. He wanted Marissa to feel secure, so he encouraged her to leave her dancing job and stay home with Rhiannon. He'd provide for the family. On September 6, 1999, they got married. Marissa kept her maiden name, Dubois. Over the next few years, they had 2 more daughters together. By all outward appearances, they were building a stable family life. A house in Gilbert, steady income, 3 daughters. But beneath that surface, financial problems were already developing. By 2009, the family was living in Gilbert, Arizona. Nice neighborhood, nice house. To neighbors, they looked like any other suburban family. What neighbors didn't know was that behind the appearance of stability, the family was facing serious financial difficulties. According to court records, they were renting the house and had fallen behind on payments. Bills were accumulating, and Marissa was living a secret life that Dale apparently knew nothing about. Now, there's one more person we need to discuss before we get to the night of the attack. His name is Stanley Cook Jr. He was 31 years old, the same age as Marissa, and he was living in the house with them, rent-free. According to Marissa, Stanley was a friend from college who needed a place to stay. In exchange, he'd help with the kids and housework. It seemed like a reasonable arrangement. But here's what made Stanley's situation unique. Years earlier, he'd been in a serious motorcycle accident that left him with a traumatic brain injury. The result? Severe short-term memory loss. Stanley had significant difficulty remembering conversations, events, and details. And Marissa was aware of this condition, because Stanley's memory problems would become central to her defense strategy. But we'll come back to Stanley. First, we need to talk about the night everything changed. At 2:45 in the morning, a 911 dispatcher in Gilbert, Arizona, received a call from a woman who sounded extremely distressed. She was speaking rapidly and chaotically, making it difficult for the operator to understand what she was saying. The only word that came through clearly was, "Help." The line then disconnected. The dispatcher immediately called back. Same woman, same frantic state. The line disconnected again. On the third call, the woman managed to communicate something more specific. She reported that she'd been told that a was involved and that the immediate threat had ended. Police officers arrived at the address within minutes. When they got there, they found the front door standing open. In the hallway just inside, they encountered a woman with blood visible on her forehead and in her hair. She was shaking and appeared unsteady. Standing next to her was a man trying to help stabilize her. He identified himself as Stanley Cook Jr., the roommate. The woman identified herself as Marissa DeVault. When officers asked if she was injured, she said something that caught their attention. "The blood isn't mine, it's my husband's." Officers immediately asked where her husband was. Marissa indicated he was upstairs in the master bedroom. Before proceeding, officers needed to secure the house and ensure there were no immediate threats. They also needed to verify that the 3 children Marissa mentioned were safe. Officers quickly checked the rest of the house. Upstairs, they found 3 daughters. The oldest, Rhiannon Sky, was awake in her room. The 2 younger girls were still asleep, unaware of what had occurred. Upstairs, in the primary bedroom, police find Dale face down beside the bed, alive but gravely injured. A blood-stained hammer is recovered near the sleeping area. Paramedics rush Dale out. Medical personnel stabilized him sufficiently to transport him to the hospital, where surgeons would perform emergency procedures in an attempt to save his life. However, the prognosis was extremely poor given the severity of the injuries. Officers then separated Marissa and Stanley, placing them in the back of separate police cars for safety and to conduct preliminary interviews. During a pat-down for weapons, officers discovered that Stanley had a .22 pistol in his front pocket. When asked about the firearm, Stanley immediately stated, "It's Marissa's. Her boss gave it to her for protection." Then, without being asked, Stanley made a statement that drew immediate attention. "I had to do it to protect Marissa. I'm the one you're looking for." He then invoked his right to an attorney and declined to answer further questions. Marissa was transported to a different hospital to be medically evaluated for her reported injuries, specifically the alleged strangulation she'd mentioned in the 911 call. But when medical professionals examined Marissa at the hospital, they documented findings that didn't align with her 911 call. According to the medical examination, there was no evidence of injuries, no redness, no bruising, no the small burst vessels in the eyes that typically appear when someone has been. For someone who had reported being to the point of losing consciousness, the medical findings showed no physical indicators consistent with that claim. And this was just the beginning of the inconsistencies investigators would discover. Because when the blood spatter expert examined that bedroom, the physical evidence told a very different story than what Marissa had reported. The question was, what exactly had happened in that room? Marissa's first version was simple. An intruder slipped in and attacked Dale as he slept. She couldn't give a useful description. No clear features, no route in or out, just a stranger in the dark. Officers did what they always do with an intruder claim. They secured the house, checked doors and windows for damage or forced entry marks, and looked for a path through the home. They also noted what wasn't obvious. No ransacked rooms, no apparent missing valuables at the door, and a scene that didn't read like strike and flee. That doesn't make an intruder impossible. It means this story has to survive the room, the clock, and the record. Now, we test it. The doesn't lie. Blood follows physics. Angle, direction, and distribution let analysts map where blows started and how they moved. In this case, the patterns in the bedroom didn't match the early stories. Coverage of the trial noted that stain patterns showed Dale Harrell was alone in bed began, which undercut claims of a struggle or a third person in the immediate space. Reporters also summarized testimony that stains on Marissa DeVault's clothing were consistent with someone's object repeatedly over, not with a roaming two-sided. Taken together, the room read like packs delivered over a sleeping, not a sudden brawl. And when investigators confronted Marissa with the accumulating record, scene work, medical findings, and the statements, she later acknowledged that she struck Dale with. This analysis treats the bedroom patterns and the clothing stains as fixed points. Any version that contradicts them doesn't survive the evidence. To understand the full picture, we need to examine Stanley Cook Jr.'s role in this case, because even though forensic evidence ruled him out as the attacker, he would become a central figure in Marissa's changing narrative, and his medical condition would prove significant to the investigation. Quick recap. You've already met Stanley Cook Jr., the housemate with a documented short-term memory impairment. In early interviews, Stanley said he was the but when detectives pressed for specifics, how he entered the room, what he used, the sequence, he couldn't supply his own memories. His account leaned on what others had told him, not on details he could recall. Investigators weighed that against the fixed points from the scene. The bedroom patterns and placements didn't support Stanley as the assailant, and his memory gaps made the confession unreliable. So detectives turned back to Marissa. In her next interview, she changed her story. Describing self-defense and years of abuse and producing documents, she said backed it up. Claims investigators reported had limited corroboration when tested against the record. Stanley's words didn't survive the room. So, whose story does? Let's test the next version. With the intruder account contradicted by forensics and Stanley Cook Jr.'s involvement not supported by the physical record, Marissa Dubois offered a different explanation. She acknowledged there was no intruder and that Stanley hadn't attacked Dale, but maintained she acted in self-defense. Public reporting documents that Dubois alleged years of physical, emotional, and shifted to a self-defense narrative during the investigation and trial. To support these claims, she submitted a lengthy written statement, about 300 pages, outlining incidents she described as across the marriage. Investigators pursued standard checks, seeking medical documentation, and interviewing people Dubois named as witnesses. News coverage indicates those checks did not corroborate the specific injuries she described. Among the friends interviewed, Jeffrey and Kelly Kirshen told reporters they had never witnessed Dale Marissa, contradicting her account. A former nanny and friend, Amy Dewey, who lived with the couple for several months in the late 1990s and attended the trial, likewise did not support Dubois' narrative, according to coverage. As for the night of January 14, the hospital exam described in coverage did not substantiate to the point of unconsciousness. And when that account was compared with the bedroom blood evidence, prosecutors argued the self-defense version didn't fit the fixed points of the scene. So investigators followed the paper trail. It led to a second life, private loans, secret messages, and a ledger that didn't read like love. Claims bend, paper doesn't. Let's follow the money. While Marissa was in custody before Dale's death, investigators reviewed the family's finances. They pulled bank statements, credit card records, and mortgage documents. The picture raised questions. Marissa's account showed deposits that didn't match Dale's salary, and the money traced back to a man named Allen Flores. Allen Flores was a well-paid business consultant who was older and financially established. Per interviews and case records, Marissa had introduced him to others with a story that he'd been the former romantic partner of her deceased stepfather and was helping out of sympathy. Investigators later determined that account was not accurate. Investigators reported that in 2007, Marissa joined SeekingArrangement.com, a site connecting older, financially established people with younger partners in mutually beneficial arrangements. That's where she and Allen met, and, according to Allen's testimony, their relationship had both personal and financial components. Allen testified that Marissa soon asked for financial help, promising to repay him, at one point citing an anticipated trust fund inheritance. When police searched his computer, they found an Excel ledger titled Money Given to Marissa Dubois, documenting transactions over roughly 20 months. Documents show a running total of is approximately equal to $300,000 over less than 2 years. Elsewhere in the record and testimony you'll see is approximately equal to $362,000 cited. The spending covered trips, clothing, cash transfers, gaming funds, and bills. Ongoing support well beyond the household's normal income. By late 2008, Allen testified he started pressing for repayment. He discovered the stepfather was alive and no trust existed. Promissory notes signed by Marissa set a December 31st, 2009 deadline. If he sued, the arrangement and the debt would be exposed. Investigators also noted 2 life insurance policies on Dale, an existing $500,000 policy and a new $750,000 policy that took effect the 1st of January 2009, 14 days before the attack. Prosecutors later argued that if Dale died, is approximately equal to $1.25 million would flow to Marissa, more than enough to cover the debt and other obligations. Timing became part of the motive frame. But to use this story in court, the state needed a key witness. Allen's computer held more than a ledger, and that created a problem the prosecution had to solve. To put the ledger and promissory notes in front of a jury, investigators needed to anchor those documents to their source. One item pointed the way: a typed confession letter that had been attributed to Stanley Cook Jr., but didn't originate in the Harrell home. Interviews traced its creation to Allen Flores' residence, giving detectives a clear trail to follow. From those interviews, it was acknowledged that Marissa wrote the letter, Allen proofread it, and it was printed from Allen's computer. That provided probable cause for a warrant. Detectives seized a laptop, a desktop, removable media, and a printer, and sent them for forensic analysis. The examination surfaced evidence relevant to the homicide, and also unrelated criminal material that would later shape the state's decisions. The forensic review documented several categories of material: drafts of the confession letter, with edits, an Excel ledger tracking money provided to Marissa, with a running total, promissory notes signed by Marissa, life insurance documents for Dale, a profile and messages on a sugar dating website, documents Allen described as BDSM contracts, surreptitious adult recordings, and illegal content involving minors. Under Arizona law, possession of illegal content involving minors carries substantial mandatory prison terms per count, and sentences can be stacked consecutively. In practical terms, even a small number of files can translate into decades if charged and convicted. The forensic report indicated multiple files, creating significant potential exposure for Allen. Prosecutors made a consequential choice. They extended limited immunity on those image-related matters in exchange for Allen's truthful testimony about the loans, ledger, promissory notes, and related conversations. The state argued this was necessary to present the paper trail. The defense later attacked the agreement to challenge Allen's credibility. The deal secured a key witness and ensured the jury would also hear why he was testifying. Before trial, there would be one more turn, an extreme attempt to change the legal landscape entirely. It involved Stanley, a sledgehammer, and an insurance policy on Marissa herself. On February 9, 2009, 26 days after the assault, Dale Harrell died from his injuries. He had remained on life support and never regained consciousness. Following his death, charges against Marissa were upgraded from aggravated assault to first-degree murder. Roughly 12 hours later, another 911 call came in from Marissa. At about 3 a.m. on February 10, Marissa reported she'd been attacked by an unknown assailant while jogging and left in a field. Responding officers found her 8-10 feet off the road, wearing muddy, damp exercise clothing with visible facial and a severely injured ankle. Tire tracks led from the roadway toward her location. On first look, the scene appeared consistent with a roadside assault. Attention turns to Stanley Cook Jr. Investigators noted mud on his jacket, what appeared to be blood on his pants, and fresh mud on his vehicle, with a tread pattern consistent with tracks near the field. Stanley offered explanations for the mud and blood, but investigators seized his clothing for analysis. While an initial theory considered whether he had attacked Marissa, subsequent interviews produced a very different account. During questioning, Stanley stated that Marissa asked him to injure her, and that the event was planned, not random. According to his statement, Marissa carried a $500,000 policy on herself that included a partial payout for paralysis or loss of limb. He said Marissa wanted funds to retain a more experienced defense attorney after the murder charge. He described an abandoned plan to cause a injury and a revised plan carried out in the garage, where, after Marissa took pain medication, he used her ankle and then, at her instruction, her face, resulting in a jaw, he said. He then transported her to the field, and that she waited before calling 911 to make the timing look more like a random attack. Investigators treated this as a staged event intended to trigger an insurance benefit. When the account is tested against the timeline and scene indicators, details don't sit cleanly. The call occurs hours after Dale's death. Tire directionality points in, not out, and the injury profile reads controlled, not consistent with a roadside. The state views the staging as financially motivated and corroborative of the broader pattern. With Dale deceased, Stanley's account recorded, and Allen's financial records secured, prosecutors believed they had the framework of their case. But Marissa would offer yet another version, one that acknowledged her role, with conditions. Next, the confession. Confronted with the growing record, bloodstain findings that contradicted earlier versions, financial documents tied to outside support, and statements gathered in the staging investigation. Marissa DeVault agreed to give another statement. This became her fourth account, and for the first time it included an admission that she struck Dale with a hammer while he slept. Investigators treated this as a qualified confession. In this statement, Marissa said there had been a relationship conflict earlier that day. That night, she said Dale went to sleep in the bedroom. She reported going to the bathroom, becoming emotional, and then returning to the room, where she saw a hammer nearby. She admitted she picked it up multiple times while he was sleeping. According to Marissa DeVault's account, Stanley Cook Jr. entered, took the hammer from her, and put it back, after which 911 was called. With Marissa DeVault's admission on record, the case moved to trial in 2014, where jurors would weigh claims of abuse against evidence of premeditation and motive. It took 5 years for Marissa DeVault's case to reach trial. Jury selection began in January 2014 in Maricopa County Superior Court, Phoenix, Arizona. The media inevitably drew comparisons to Jodi Arias, tried in the same courthouse the year prior, given the intimate partner homicide and self-defense claim, though the facts and witnesses were different. Judge Roland Steinle presided and instructed jurors to focus on the evidence. The state organized its case around 4 rails: money, planning, the room, and shifting accounts. For financial motive, loan records or ledger, often summarized around $362,000, and 2 life insurance policies on Dale, with a second policy effective Jan 1st, 2009. Premeditation. Witnesses, including Allen Flores and Travis Tatro, described conversations in which Marissa discussed ways Dale might be harmed or killed. Forensics. Bloodstain testimony placed the opening while Dale was in bed, indicating repeated impacts inconsistent with a roaming struggle and undercutting self-defense. Inconsistent statements. Multiple, conflicting versions from Marissa that prosecutors framed as deception, not trauma. The state also told jurors that investigators found limited corroboration for long-term physical abuse in medical or police records. The defense asked jurors to view the evidence through trauma. They argued Marissa suffered long-term abuse and PTSD, reached a breaking point, and acted in a dissociative state, not with premeditation. Rhiannon Skye, then 18, testified that she had seen Dale be abusive toward Marissa during her childhood. The defense's frame: a tragedy rooted in abuse, not a calculated. Allen Flores testified about the money is approximately equal to $362,000. Promissory notes, repayment pressures, and conversations. At one point, a $7,000 request and discussions of scenarios to harm Dale. The defense attacked his credibility, emphasizing his immunity on unrelated image-based offenses. Prosecutors answered that his account was document, backed by the ledger, notes, insurance paperwork, and Travis Tatro's testimony. Both sides presented mental health experts. Defense clinicians linked Marissa's behavior to long-term trauma. The state called a clinical psychologist, known publicly from the Arias case, who testified that Marissa met criteria for antisocial personality disorder and pointed to jail calls and other conduct as signs of manipulation and lack of remorse, including decisions around Dale's remains, as inconsistent with genuine contrition. After several weeks of testimony, jurors deliberated for about 5.5 days. On April 8, 2014, they returned a verdict: guilty of first-degree murder. Proceedings then moved to the penalty phase, where the jury would choose between death or life imprisonment. During the penalty phase, jurors found the murder especially cruel, an aggravator that made Marissa DeVault eligible for a death sentence under Arizona law. The panel now had to choose death or life imprisonment. DeVault addressed the court and expressed remorse, saying she wanted a chance to be useful.
Carry this for the rest of their lives, and they're going to have to carry a dual image.
Her 3 daughters submitted statements asking jurors to spare their mother's life while acknowledging the loss of their father. Jurors weighed those pleas against the aggravating evidence. Members of Dale Harrell's family also spoke, describing the damage to his reputation and the milestones he would never see. Some relatives asked for a sentence with no possibility of release. After deliberation, on April 22, 2014, the jury chose life in prison rather than death. While the jury selected life, Judge Roland Stanley determined the terms. On June 6, 2014, he imposed life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. From the bench, he characterized the crime as horrific and motivated by greed, described DeVault as manipulative, and said the record did not justify parole. Marissa DeVault is incarcerated at the Arizona State Prison Complex, Perryville, under a sentence of life without parole. Dale Harrell was 34. He worked in HVAC and was widely described as a dedicated father and provider. Trial evidence indicated he was asleep when attacked. He never had the chance to defend himself. Family and friends remember him as a hard worker who loved his daughters. His death left a lasting impact, especially on his 3 girls, who grew up without their father. This case shows how financial pressure, deception, and desperation can end in tragedy. 3 stories told, but the evidence held to one truth. You made it to the end. Thank you for giving Dale Harrell your time and attention today. I'd love to hear your take. What single detail in this case felt decisive to you? The blood pattern in the bedroom, the financial trail, or the changing stories? Drop your answer in the comments. I read everyone. If careful, evidence-first investigations are your thing, subscribe and turn on notifications. New deep dives every week. And if you want to keep going right now, tap this next episode. It's another case where money, timelines, and forensics tell a very different story than the one on the surface. Stay curious, stay kind to each other. I'll see you in the next investigation.